በትምህርት ከፍ ብሎ መብረር ይቻላል። ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ከከፍተኛ ትምህርት አግባብነትና ጥራት ኤጀንሲ ሙሉ ዕውቅናን ባገኘንባቸው በማስተርስ ዲግሪ ኤምቢኤ በስትራቴጂክ ማኔጅመንት፣ ኤምቢኤ በባንኪንግ እና ፋይናንስ፣ ኤምቢኤ በቢዝነስ ሊደርሺፕ፣ ኤምቢኤ በሪስክና ኢንሹራንስ፣ ኤምኤስሲ በኢንተርናሽናል ትሬድ እና ኢኮኖሚክስ ዘርፎች በእውቀት ለመቅረጽ የበቁ ፕሮፌሰሮቻችን አረንጓዴ መብራታቸውን አብርተዋል። በነገራችን ላይ በኬንያ ሀገር ከሚገኙ ስመጥር ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች በሚመጡ ፕሮፌሰሮች የትኩረት መስክ ትምህርቶቹ መሰጠታቸው ልዩ ያደርገናል። በምርጥ የትምህርት ስርዓት የተገነባው ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ በመጀመሪያ ዲግሪ በአቪዬሽን ማኔጅመንት፣ በሆቴል ማኔጅመንት፣ በአካውንቲንግና ፋይናንስ፣ በማርኬቲንግ ማኔጅመንት አስተማማኝ ትምህርት ይገቢውና ራስዎንና ሀገሮን ይለውጡ። አድራሻ 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ። ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
We are 4 here already. So how are you? How are you guys?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon to you. Afternoon, Aleman. So maybe, and if there is any question so far, maybe somebody can, let's see if you have a question so far. So far we have come. If there are any issues on corporate governance that I may be able to respond to so far up to where we have reached. Somebody with a question, it's always good to start with a review of maybe possible questions that you could be having or you could have encountered during the last 1 week or 2 weeks that maybe you may want us to discuss or to seek the opinion of others in trying to discuss. Any question? No question. So let's just continue with, I said my interest today is to look at board operations and control, you know, how boards operate and what sorts of control they have. Yes, Alemaya, I think was, now, I think so far up to this point, we all agree that for organizations in the 21st century to run effectively and to have good performance, then corporate governance is important, right? And corporate governance is important in terms of creating checks and balances, in terms of ensuring there's accountability, and in terms of ensuring nobody is given excess power, you know, so that power is equally shared. So those are things that we are all agreeing, and that's why this subject is gaining a lot of importance globally, right? So, and again, the idea is that for you to have a good board, then you see, as opposed to some, as I said, some government bodies, government institutions, parastatals, where you find that the board members are political appointees. So sometimes they're just appointed because of maybe ethnic interest or clan or political affiliations, and they don't have what it takes in terms of competence, in terms of qualifications to be in those boards. So I think those things should be looked at, maybe in terms of challenges, or if you're in a profit, an organization that is competitive, and that is, the bottom line is profit, then you need to be very careful how you choose your board of directors, right? That's why in the second bullet, I say that effective corporate governance requires a board composed of qualified and competent members. So that's very critical. Many times we have people on the board of directors whose interest maybe is only the allowance, or to use the organization as a way of, let's say, employing a source of employment for their relatives, you know, and things like that. No, that's not the kind of board of directors that we are interested in. So again, it's important that when we have the right board, then we also have the right corporate governance practices. And the board has to be well remunerated and of course constantly evaluated so that if there is non-performance, then they can be ejected out. Remember, we have agreed that the shareholders are critical in determining who stays on board. And if the shareholders feel that the board is not performing well, then they have the mandate to kick them off. They have the mandate to recommend for their removal from office. So I think that's very important for us. Now, so the powers of the directors to run the company are usually set out in the company's constitutions or articles. So that's how far we can know what powers do they have. So possibly maybe what you can do as, let's say as your own research is try to find out what powers do your board of directors in your company or organization have. And you have your company's constitutions or articles where you can see how powerful they are or what they can recommend and what they cannot recommend. If the board is not individuals who do not know their, so they link between the managers and now I think that's a very important point, you know, because you can see if you have the wrong people linking you to investors, then you can see that you're not going to do well. And that's why you need to have, so I was saying that last bullet is what makes us very careful about the kind of board of directors we choose. Because you see, if they're not making the right link to the investors, then we are bound to lose. And that's why we really need to be careful. Now, the OECD, that's the one that deals with the Commonwealth countries, outlays the key elements of good practice for board of directors. Number one, the board members should act on a fully informed basis, which means they should be able to have the books of account and they're making decisions when they are fully informed. Maybe they have been well furnished with the CEO and all the other heads of department. So fully informed basis, in good faith, with due diligence and care, and in the best interest of the company and the shareholders. You know, that's very powerful. That's a very powerful statement that you're entrusting with the board. So the first thing is that they have to have full information so that they can make the right decision. Because if the information is not given that is full, then they may not be able to make the right information. Where the board decisions may affect different shareholders or group differently, then the board should treat all shareholders fairly. Again, the issue of equity. We expect the board decision and the board members to be very fair in their decision and to ensure that everybody, all the shareholders are treated fairly, right? And then they should also apply high ethical standards. Remember, we also want the board to be people of very high ethical standard. And that is why it's good corporate, it's a good corporate practice that if one of the members, let's say you have a court case, you have been involved in, let's say, fraud, then you step aside, or you are being investigated for some issues, then it's important that you step aside from being the board, from being a board of director in especially publicly quoted company. But I think it would be good practice for you to step aside from being in any board as a sign of good corporate governance principle. That's why the ethical issues are also important. And so that's why some of the critical attribute of the director is that they should have a good balance between experience and their expertise, you know. That's why you don't want to have a lot of maybe young people who do not have experience as members of the board. But also you don't have a lot of old people who maybe the experience would, let's say, they are not in tune with the current events. So you need a very good balance of, in many boards in this country, I think people retire by 70 years, unless otherwise. But usually by 70, it's official retirement from most boards. But you can be kept on to maybe 75 or something like that. But you see, the purpose of this is that you should be still in the right frame of mind, where your experience is still applicable, and you are not in a situation where you have experience. Yes, you could have experience, but you see some experiences have been overtaken by time, and so you are not within the present context. So that's very important. Again, as you do your board, especially if it is a public company, try to balance maybe ethnic groups. Ensure you have a very good mix of different ethnic groups, and you have also a good mix of gender balance, you know. At least I think, as I said early, countries like in Africa, countries like Rwanda are really trying, because they are trying to implement the 2/3 majority rule for ladies. Kenya has it on paper, but I think it's not well implemented. Maybe when we discuss, somebody will tell me about whether that has been implemented in Ethiopia. I think the reason why there are fewer women on the top levels, the CEO and the board of director levels, is because most of the African culture, I don't know about Ethiopia, maybe somebody tell me, most of the African culture is patriarchal, which means the males dominate. And for many years, men have dominated business, have dominated politics. And so because of that, then you find it's like a club. So they end up supporting it, pulling, and because again, men are competitive by nature. So that's why many of them then rise to the top levels of CEOs and directors and things like that. But I think that is why many countries are being encouraged to ensure that there's a good balance of women. The only problem with that is that then some people feel that they should fight for it and not just be given, you know. So that even if you're saying that there's that 2/3 rule, then whoever gets that position must merit it, not just be given because of the agenda. So that's something that ought to be considered. So both moral and ethical conduct is very critical. And some of the moral attributes of your directors are conscience, inclusivity, competence, commitment, and courage. You know, these are things that you expect from courage. It's okay. Yeah. These are things that you expect from your directors. Conscious means they act with intellectual honesty and dependence of mind, and basically they have the right instinct. When you couple your experience and the expertise, then you should have the instinct to be able to know what is right and what is wrong, right? Inclusivity, they should take into account, and that's why we were saying they ensure that their decisions are fair, and they are, fair to all the shareholders, right? And their knowledge and skills should be the right level, and they should be showing some commitment and devotion to their duties and courage to take risky decisions. You know, this is a very difficult one, because often what we are told sometimes is that the riskier the decision, the more you'll benefit out of it. So sometimes it really requires courage to take some of these decisions that are risky, but with integrity, and of course, having all the information. You know, you don't make a decision when you don't have all the facts and all the information. So it's important to have all the facts, all the information, and then have the courage to take a decision, however risky, so long as you have all the information. Yeah. So as I said, it's also important that they possess the right information, the directors, possession of necessary information. That's very critical. It should be provided, or they should seek for it, so that they have the right information. Good. Now let's look at, we were looking at the directors, the board of directors, a bit of now just going specifically to what could be their role. Yeah. So I've given a lot of maybe their specific role, because what we are saying here is that, of course, they're providing leadership in the organization. And maybe, again, as I said, this is important, even if you have, let's say, even if it's a family-owned business, you know, it's important at some stage to maybe create room to have, the only thing that people fear once you start maybe having the directors, the idea you can have a board of advisors, an advisory board, where you can pick maybe people you think are competent. In this case, I'm saying this is if it's just a personal business. It's still important to maybe have the board of advisors, whom you can pick, maybe individuals or friends of yours who are in strategic areas and have the expertise and knowledge to help you steer your business. But of course, if it's a public corporation and things like that, with the structures we have already mentioned of having shareholders, then it's important that shareholders pick the directors, then the directors pick the CEO, then the CEO picks the remaining structures within the organization. So these are some of the critical roles of a board that we would say is high performing. So number one, it provides superior strategic guidance to ensure the company's growth and prosperity. So strategic guidance, so it has to give very strategic guidance, right? The board has to agree on whether you want to expand, or whether you close the branches, or whether you downsize, you know. Ensure accountability of the company to its stakeholders, you know. So make sure the company is accountable to their stakeholders. And this includes everybody, the employees, your suppliers, your contractors, your shareholders. Again, ensure that a highly qualified executive team is managing the company. So the board should ensure that you have a very competent CEO and a very competent team of management team that is running the company. So these are some of their very critical roles. And that's why you've often seen sometimes when the company is not doing badly, then the shareholders can even order for the resignation of all the members of the board, right? Or sometimes can even demand for the resignation of the CEO. And when the CEO goes, often he goes with some of the key management team, for example, finance, you know, mainly such people, finance and critical position. So that is something worth noting about the director. So, so the detailed activities that they do is now what follows: reviewing and guiding the corporate strategy, which is what I've said, monitoring the effectiveness of the company's governance principles, which is part of ensuring things are done effectively, selecting, compensating, monitoring, and when necessary, replacing key executives. Again, I've told you that. When they feel maybe some of the management team is not doing good, they can recommend to the CEO. Aligning key executives and board remuneration with long-term interests of the company. So again, issues of remuneration, how much the CEO earned. You know, it has been, and I think that is the next topic we'll talk about, the CEO and executive compensation. Now, there's been a lot of talk that maybe some of the CEOs earn so much money. You'll find maybe a CEO, like a former CEO, I don't know how much translates to Ethiopian shilling, was almost some of the top paid CEO in this country, let's say earning about 10 million Kenya shillings. I don't know how much beer that is. But if somebody is earning 10 million, maybe and the next person following is so low.
Network is poor.
Right? So you have the CEO very high justification for maybe having, and then the one following. Yes, yes. Because we look at it on Friday or next week, I think the issue of salary, compensation, remuneration for the CEO. And I said there's been a lot of debate on is it really ethical for the CEO salary to be so high up there when maybe the others are so down here, you know? That's a question that maybe we'll discuss, but you can see accepting such packages and remuneration is part of what the board does. The board would okay for that. Ensuring formal and transparent board nomination process. Again, that's very important, that the process should be very, very formal. Monitoring and managing potential conflict, ensuring integrity, overseeing the process of disclosures and communication. So those are critical things. The board should be able to exercise independent and objective judgment, you see, and it should assign sufficient number of non-executive board members. Again, we shall look at this issue of non-executive board members. And that's why I said sometimes, even in public water, we may have executive and non-executive, you know, and we shall soon see what's the difference between the executive and non-executive. Again, just to finish their role, when committees of the board are established, their mandate, composition, and working procedure should be well defined, and the board members should be able to commit themselves effectively to their responsibilities. So as I said, that's very critical. And lastly, so you, yes, so before maybe we look at the role of the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, I don't know whether there's anybody with something else to add, especially looking at the role of the board of directors, their key responsibilities, maybe from your own background, from your organization, or from the context of maybe Ethiopian, if there is anything that is any different from what I've tried to discuss here. Good. So if anybody just want to share something on if there's anything that is very critical that I've not addressed on the role of the board of directors, the role of the board, their responsibilities, their key role, their composition, and things like that. Anybody who wants to share something? Anything that I may not have put in place about the board of directors, their responsibilities, their mandate, their formation, position. So I'm leaving that for the next thing that I want to look at is the responsibility of the CEO. But before I go there, just any interjection on if there's any deviation from the practice in Ethiopia, because these are standard practices for the board of directors. I don't know whether anybody has anything to add. Maybe if I may add, is the two-third gender rule also already enforced in Ethiopia? I said in Kenya, yes, it is there in the book, but in practice, it's not yet enforced. You still find men dominating the board of directors position, and I've given the reason why, historically and culturally. I think this society was patriarchal. Patriarchal means the males dominate. So because of that, they've dominated for a long time. And that's why it will slowly, in fact, it's now the rule. It's a rule, yes? But then you have to ensure that it's not all male. So that's one of the things that has to be looked at, yeah, before maybe the company can be registered and things like that. how many are in the board, how many ladies, and how many men. So maybe let me just get your view of the Ethiopian, whether this has been implemented or it's still a challenge like it is. I know the only country in Africa that has fully implemented the two-third gender rule in terms of the board composition is Rwanda. Yes, only Rwanda. Good. So let me get your views on Ethiopia. Yes, anybody?
Yeah,
Anybody
gender
with,
issue.
a view?
Gender issue
Yes.
in Ethiopia is also a challenge. Currently, the Ethiopian government has succeeded in making 50% of the cabinet members a woman. This is on the government level, but when you come to the business down, most of the board are composed of men. Only few are included in some companies, but still it is a challenge to find experienced and qualified women to be a board member. As you said, it is Ethiopia is an African country. It is dominated by men, and still it is a challenge. But theoretically, there is a framework in every company, and by the rule, the gender issue is an issue in every company, but it's not even in the management. Finding one or two management members to be a woman is hard in Ethiopia.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I think it's almost the same story in most
I can add something.
Yes, Bakal, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, there's a difference in our bank.
Yeah.
There is 2 women in the board of directors. They really participate strongly to influence the CEO to recruit women managers in the branch. After that, the result is very significant. Almost we have got about 330 branches. We have got almost 50 branch managers, 50. They can create something. Before that, we are exercising with men, always. But the result of women branch managers is very effective. They awarded in every year's closing. Therefore, the women board directors have got an influence to change the company's performance by utilizing women managers. This is what I see in my bank. Thank you very much.
Okay. So in essence, you're saying that the women managers are performing much better than the men managers.
Yeah, significantly change their working environment, and most of the time marketing and something just like that may be supported by women. It's easy for women. There is a lot of wealthy people they are in Ethiopia is men. They want to go to those peoples. They want to come to us to work with our bank. They are influenced by women most of the time. That's why. But our bank for the last 18 years, 18 years, the CEO do not like to utilize women managers. They always appoint men for that position, but the assistant level is women's always. After that, when they manage that bank, they control it, and the number of women in the bank is increased within a year. Within a year, and the second year, they add 15, and now the number of women in our bank as a managerial level, they are 50. 50. That's my comment.
Yeah. So I think that's I think you are telling us where the direction is that many companies then again are slowly enforcing the gender balance. But again, you are telling us that on the contrary, they are very effective. So it means that maybe it's only that men for a long time have domineered. But given a chance, what you're telling us is that the ladies can be very effective, given a chance. I think so. Yeah, so good. So I think those are just some of the principles of corporate governance that that domineering, the fact that male are the most dominant should actually not be, it shouldn't be like that. Good. I think now let's go to the discussion of the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer. Remember, the buck stops with the CEO, right? And in leadership, remember what we talked about, the level 5 leader. The level 5 leader is the leader who has very high competence levels. And this is the kind of leader we're saying when there is success, when there is success in the organization, then they attribute the success to teamwork, to the entire organization. But when there is failure, then they take responsibility. So if you look around and you see, you can identify whether these leaders exist amongst the organization. If there are these people who are always very quick to point out mistakes, when there's a mistake, they are quickly disown it and then try to look for scapegoats, why things did not go right, then that cannot fit in as a level 5 leader. So basically, we expect most of our CEOs to, not, it's expected, but not all of them can fit that level. Remember, we also, when we were studying leadership, we also say that we are depending on the organization. We expect these CEOs to have certain qualities like charismatic or servant leadership or transformational leadership. You know, if we are in an organization that is facing crisis, that is facing a challenge, maybe it's facing problems in market share, profits are going down, there's a high employee turnover, and it's just looking at the red, then we require a very different kind of CEO. We require a CEO who has the ability to transform this company. And basically, that's why in leadership, we'll talk of transformational leadership. Because the CEO basically has the responsibility to run the company on a daily basis. Remember I say on the board level, the CEO sits as the secretary. He's the secretary to the board, right? You see the board of directors has its own chairman, then the members, then the CEO would sit there as a secretary. But when it comes to the day-to-day running of the organization, then it's mandate of the CEO. And the CEO then chooses the management team, you know, and of course, then the management team have the mandate to then ensure that other people are put in the right position. So that's very critical role of the CEO. Like the first bullet says, you can see the CEOs as the day-to-day running of the company, the operational bit, whereas the chairman's responsibility is running the board, right? So these two roles should actually be very different in terms of good corporate governance. So we don't expect the members of the board to put their nose, to get involved into the affairs of the day-to-day running of the company. That should be left to the CEO, right? That's good corporate governance practice. So we don't expect, and that's why there was one time, I think, a question, which was it, Becca, who asked why the CEO does not want members of the board to be in his meeting. You see, these are two different things. In running of the day-to-day business of the company, the CEO has the mandate to do that. And when he calls for the meeting, unless it's a board meeting, but if it's the normal meeting, then the members of the board have no responsibility attending. They're not required. So good corporate governance code discourages retiring CEO from becoming chairman. Again, it's not a good practice. You retire as a CEO, then you maybe join the board of the same company or the chair. It's not good corporate governance practice because sometimes it can involve conflict of interest. Maybe there are some mistakes that you did. It's normal for a human being. And so when you become the chair, then you might still be able to control certain activities through the CEO. So it's not a good practice. Where that happens, it should be discouraged. So some of the summarized roles are: number one, business strategy and management. That's really what the CEO should be able to do. Your work is to carry the vision of the company. And your work is to be able to communicate this vision to your team so that you, together with your team and everybody in the organization, should buy into this vision. And that's the only way you're able then to move the organization to the next level. If this vision is not clear to you and it's not clear to your team and it's not clear to the general employee, then it will be very difficult for you to move this team forward. Investment and financing. Again, the CEO will examine major investment, of course, look for opportunities to invest, look for opportunities to expand the organization. That's your responsibility as a CEO. Risk management. Remember, I also said the CEO should be able to look for opportunities and weigh out the different opportunities and see where, of course, all this information, once the CEO has identified an opportunity and is looking at that direction to invest, of course, this has then got to be taken to the board, and the board will then also look at it and see whether it is worthwhile to go into that direction. Of course, then establish the company's management. I've said that it's now the responsibility of the CEO to ensure that the right finance manager, marketing manager, HR manager, procurement manager, ICT, the right people are put on board, and all the other positions below them are properly filled up. Board committee. The CEO will make recommendations to be discussed by the board committee, on remuneration and all those types of things. So on how much pay is to be paid to the finance director, give recommendations for the board. It should also be liaison with stakeholders. Ensure that you are liaising. The CEO has the mandate to ensure that you have established good relationships with your contractors, with your suppliers, with your customers, with the members, the chair of the board, all the kind of responsibilities are critical. So this is the summarized list of the responsibility of the manager. Of the chairman. That is the chairman of the board. I've already given the summary of the CEO. Maybe after this, then I would want maybe an interjection on if there's anything to add from the Ethiopian perspective. So running the board and its agenda, that's what the chairman would be able to do. Ensuring that the board receives accurate and timely information, that's very important. Ensuring effective communication with shareholders, very important. Ensuring that sufficient time is allowed for discussion of controversial issues, very important. Taking the lead in board development, very important. Facilitating board appraisals, So sometimes if you want to appraise members of the board, maybe depending on their mandate, is it a 3-year renewable or it's not? Encourage active engagement by all members and reporting in and signing off accounts. Now, these are very critical summarized roles of the board, of the chair of the board. I've also given a summarized role of the CEO. And I've also given a summarized role of the board, the general board of directors. Now, up to this point, I don't know whether there is any role from your experience which has not been added here. Is there any role that I haven't added here from your experience?
I didn't understand the question.
Any role not? I've given you, when you look at your slide, your laptop,
Yeah.
you can see the summarized responsibility of the chairman. Earlier on, I'd also given summarized responsibility of the CEO and summarized responsibilities of the board of directors. So I was just trying to say, from this one list of the chairman of the board, is there anything that from your experience has not been included as their responsibility?
What do you mean by the
Anything
last
or
one? Reporting in and signing of accounts.
You know, there is the issue of ensuring the
Number 8.
2, ensuring that the board receives accurate. I'm trying to report number 8 by the functions of the chairman is ensuring that the boards receive accurate and timely information. Now, this reporting in and signing of accounts basically means that you see, before, let's say you are, like if it's a publicly quoted company here in Kenya, your statement, your statement of accounts, like balance sheet, is made public. Sometimes it's published in newspapers, mostly, so that, and put in the company's website, you know, so that all the shareholders and stakeholders can see that in this account.
Is the network is clear, Alex?
This is what the company.
No, it's not.
Please inform me.
The responsibility.
Doctor, the network is breaking continuously. I think it is not good.
Oh, okay. Yes, sorry. I don't know whether I shout. Yes, I'm trying to answer Alemayu's question. And that's why I was trying to link question 2 and he's asked about question 4. So I was trying to say, if you look at question 2, I mean, responsibility number 2, it says one of the responsibility of the chair is ensuring that the board, I think this should be board, that the board receives accurate and timely information. And then I was giving an example, like here in Kenya.
Is that the responsibility of the CEO? Doctor, is that the responsibility of the CEO or the chairman?
Chairman.
The chairman of the board.
Chairman of the board.
So who is going to report? The CEO should report for them.
Yes, the CEO reports to them. So it's the CEO to ensure they receive timely and accurate information.
What about number 8?
So that's why I'm coming to number 8. Now, information. Okay. I was giving an example, like here, publicly quoted companies have to ensure that their maybe account statements, like statements of account, balance sheet, are signed by the CEO and the chair of the board and are made public, are published.
Published financial information finally of the year. I get it.
Yes, published in the newspapers and in the company's website. So the chair has
the chairman sign on that.
Yes, the chair has to sign. And they have to ensure that this information is accurate and is detailed and accurate. So that's why it's part of their responsibility. And this should be very timely. So that's what I was just trying to say. So I don't know whether I've captured the same with what happens in Ethiopia, or there's something that I've left out in terms of the real practice now with the Ethiopian corporation. maybe if somebody can add, if there is maybe one, something that I've left out, or something that you want to add as the responsibilities of the chair. Are we in agreement with this, or there's something that can be added? Okay.
Maybe
yes.
maybe
Yes,
we will
yes.
present in the future on our paper, but
Okay.
something
right.
what I really focused on the responsibility of the board, which includes in our bank, is they most of the time approve loans, credit facilities,
The
which
board
is
of
a
directors.
big
Oh, big loans.
big loans. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that is a major issue. I was seeing the manual, but that's the main issue. It is bolded down on the manual, and the approval of credit facility and big foreign currency facilities, import.
So have they put,
yeah,
have they put the amount?
they participate on decision making of big loan investments. Yeah, they try to participate on those issues. We will present on the paper, but the major thing is I was watching on our bank is this. Thank you.
Have they given the amounts when they say big? Do they say certain amount they approve from this amount?
Yeah. You know, in the corporate governance manual, there is a power assignment, you know, allocation of authorities. In that, for those fixed investments, capital investments greater than a certain amount, depending on the size of the company, and
50 million.
50 million.
Yeah, it varies from company to company usually, but they set the upper limit. The authority of the CEO, authority of the board, authority of line managers and others will be set in that authority list.
Okay.
Yeah, that is what Bakal says. Even in the loan, if the loan has a potential of creating a chaos in
the banking industry.
The company.
Yes. Yeah.
So the will be by the board.
Okay.
Yeah. When it is when he says a big amount, if the alliance share of risk mitigation will be serious, and in that case, the decision should be by the board.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. And that's why he's saying from their bank, it's 50 million birr and above.
Almost that. The credit manual of the bank also puts the approval level. This is by executive board, this is by executive management, this is by credit committee, this is by branches. That's a step down in the after low level of loan amounts. That's the major and bolded thing which is presented as a summary list of responsibility of a chairman.
Yeah, good. I think that's wonderful. That's we'll revisit that later when we look at some of these corporate governance manual and see what is it that we like and what is it that we don't like.
ለመማር ወደ ትምህርት ተቋም መሄድ ግድ አይደለም።
ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
ራሳችሁን ከኮሮና ቫይረስ ወረርሽኝ እየጠበቃችሁ በቤታችሁ ወይም በተመቻችሁ ቦታ
በኢንተርኔት አማካኝነት በኦንላይን ትምህርታችሁን መከታተል ይቻላል።
ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና
ከእንግሊዙ ኢንስቲትዩት ኦፍ ኮመርሻል ማኔጅመንት ICM ጋር በመተባበር የሚሰጡ ትምህርቶችን ተከታትላችሁ በ6 ወር ጊዜ በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ተቀባይነት ያለውን የስልጠና ማስረጃ ባለቤት መሆን ይቻላል።
ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና ባገኘንባቸው የፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን እና የሆስተስ ስልጠናም በምዝገባ ላይ ነን።
ጥያቄና መልስ፣ የክፍል ስራዎች ብሎም ፈተና መፈተን ክፍል ውስጥ እንዳላችሁ አይነት
ልምድ ባላቸው መምህራን እየተማራችሁ
በኦንላይን ባላችሁበት ቦታ
አድራሻ ከ22 ማዞሪያ ወደ ሾላ ገበያ በሚወስደው መንገድ 150 ሜትር ገባ ብሎ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ
ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
Now, I think now we look at the responsibility of the company secretary. And many times, remember this difference. I talked of the CEO, and maybe let me get it from your place. Does the CEO in your company also double up when they have a board meeting as the secretary to the board? You know, these are different. The one we are talking of here is a different. This is a company secretary. But in your case, does the CEO also, is it, I'm trying to say in your case, let's see whether my network is getting there also. I was trying to start discussing the responsibility of the company secretary, but I wanted to point out that the CEO also doubles up as the secretary of the board. And that is very different from this one that we want to discuss here, the company secretary.
You know, in the Ethiopian case, most company secretary, usually the CEO is the one who presents the report for the board. So at the same time, he can't be secretary. So there are a board, in most boards, there is a board secretary assigned without vote, just noting down the minutes and other things. In most cases, there is a separate secretary beyond the CEO.
Okay. But then the CEO's responsibility is to ensure that these documents are have been, let's say, proofread. I mean, the details has been properly captured before they are presented to the board.
Indeed. Yeah.
I'm saying, but the CEO has to ensure that the details in these documents are right. They are well captured before they are presented to the board.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So now let's look at the company secretary. And I think we discussed it at some stage, and we said it's important that we also have most company secretary, most organizations have a legal background, maybe a law background. But again, here in this country, they may not have a law background, but they have, you could have any other qualification, but you must be having what is called a chartered public secretary. We have a chartered public secretary qualification. So you could be, let's say, any other graduate, but then you have a chartered public secretary qualification, which I think is very clear. However, a majority of them are lawyers with a chartered public secretary qualification, and that's how they fit in as company secretary. So you can see part of their mandate is arranging meetings of shareholders and the board of directors, signing, authentication, and maintenance of documents. So that's clear. Contract, all those things, employees contract and all those things. So general administrative duties, general administration work, maintaining accounting records required by law, especially those that are required by law, corresponding with legal advisors, tax authorities, and administering the office. So those are some responsibilities, right? Dismissal of the company secretary is, of course, a decision of the board as a whole, and not just the CEO. So again, this is critical, because sometimes you see, the reason why this comes in. Oh, all right. All right. Oh, somebody was talking. I was trying to say the reason why point number 2 is critical is because we've just said that the company secretary, you see, has a legal mandate, and so sometimes for them to be more authoritative and to act well, they need to be very independent. And that's why their dismissal is actually supposed to be a board decision and not just the CEO. So the CEO can recommend to the board for their dismissal so that they have some level of independence, which is required. Now, so for non-executive directors, remember I said for a company to run well, you may also need some non-executive directors. And situations where
Network is poor. The network is very poor.
Concern include, maybe what we discuss is that what exactly and see where do you I don't know why the network is bad. Yeah. Are you able to hear me now? Now somebody's putting music. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah.
Was it Kirubel? I can hear your Ethiopian music.
Yeah.
The new year is over. So, Kirubel? Kirubel, are you hearing me now?
Yeah.
Somehow. Okay. Let's see. I don't know. It's just a couple of slides, then we can do some discussion. So I wanted to critically see what are the contributions of the non-executive directors. Why do you need them? Yeah. What's their value? What value are they adding to the organization? So we are saying, number one, the experience in industry is very critical. Their knowledge of a particular functional. So you could have non-executive directors who have certain experience or have some knowledge in finance or in technical knowledge in the area that you're dealing with. Their reputation, possibly you can just have them on board because of their reputation so that they'll give you the right connections and the right linkages. Let me just close my curtains.
Hello, Bishop.
Yep.
አሁን ረበሽኳችሁ?
Okay.
ጠፍቷል?
I was closing my curtain.
እሺ
All right, let's just continue. I was trying to bring in the reason why we are having non-executive directors, and I said you are bringing them because of their experience, because of their knowledge in a particular area, because of their reputation. And this issue of reputation, I said, is important because sometimes you want people who, because of themselves, you can get business just because you have them. They're linked to the company. So their attachment to the company would then come to do business with you because they are very credible people and want to do. And some of their contribution, of course, once we said you have to include them, then they have to. So board diversity, I've also said it's important that we have a board that is very diverse. And sometimes these are a very difficult thing to achieve. Diversity in terms of gender, diversity in terms of different. So we don't have a board that has everybody in finance background, no? You see, that's not diverse. And even diversity in terms of religion and ethnicity, it's important that you have quite a diverse board. And I think that's very important. Those are some of the issues that you should figure out in terms of diversity. So the following are some of the benefits that accrue from a diversified board. Talent. So you're ending up with individuals of diverse and different talents coming together. Broad range of knowledge. So again, different knowledge from different fields: economics, finance, HR, you know, law, yeah, engineering, depending on the organization. Greater range of constituencies. Again, I said it's important that we don't just put people from the same background, the same clan, same ethnic group. It's important that we diversify that. And that's the only way we are going to grow. It's also very important that we have independence of judgment. There'll be no need to have a board which is not independent, which doesn't make independent decisions, right? And a board which does not constitute, let's say, the face of Ethiopia or the face of Kenya, you know, that really doesn't make sense. So depending on the company, you want to ensure that it reflects the face of Ethiopia or the face of Kenya, and it's independent to be able to make its judgment. I think those are some of the critical things that I was just trying to hurry up to finish. Now, let me just go through some of these questions, but I think we'll look at them in detail just because of this network. On remember also the other one for last week, we have not tackled them, so we'll just revisit them. And there's also a case study here, which we'll not tackle today, but we'll look at it on, so all of you can just look at them, case 6 and 7, and possibly I'll just speak at random and we discuss them. And also these questions, maybe just to go through them, because this is like a summary of the entire topic that we have been looking at. So like number 1 says, in order to carry out effective scrutiny, directors need to have relevant expertise in the industry, company functional area, and governance. Discuss 5 moral attributes that directors need to possess. I think this one we have discussed them, and basically you can just, the moral attributes, you can just go back to your lecture notes. Moral attributes, yes, I think, yeah, these are the moral attributes: conscious, inclusivity, competence, commitment, and courage. So I think that's something that you can just go back to. In corporate governance circles, the board of directors is considered the most critical governance body in any company. Discuss. Is it true? Do you consider that true? Yeah. The board of directors is considered the most critical governance body. Bishop, yes. Do you consider that true? Bishop? Bishop, is that true?
Yes, indeed, I think.
Okay, good. So if it's true, then you can also discuss the key roles of the board of directors in a company. I think at some point we looked at some of the key roles. Let me just find out the summarized board of directors role attributes.
Ensuring so many things.
Yeah, there are many things. Board of directors. Yeah, I think the attributes, the role. Yeah, summarized role could be somewhere here, but I think you can just find it somewhere where I've given the summarized role of the board of directors. So I think that's also very critical that we understand. Discuss with justification why an outgoing CEO should not become the chairman of the company.
Independence, and
to avoid conflict of interest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe there are some mistakes he had done, And if he remains as the chairman, he might prevent the current CEO maybe from unveiling them, or yes, might be a threat to the CEO to do their job properly. So it's good not to, corporate governance practices will not allow that. What function does a board perform, and how does this contribute to corporate governance? Again, you go back to the role of the board. What are the main subcommittees of the board, and what roles does each? I think this differs from institution to institution. Like, can somebody give me, from their perspective, the subcommittees of the board that you have? Because I'm sure the subcommittees in the bank might not be the same as subcommittees in manufacturing. Like maybe what Biru will talk about in, how do you call that, your breweries? Abesha breweries. Might not be the same.
Yeah.
Maybe Biru has not talked. Biru can give us a brief on the subcommittees that you have. What are the subcommittees of the board? Is Biru there? Maybe from, we can get the perspective of Abesha breweries. Yeah, Biru is there.
Okay.
Yes, Biru. Yes, the
Subcommittees.
subcommittees. Yes, the subcommittees that you have. Question number 6.
Are you asking me about their function? Their
No,
activity?
just naming the subcommittees, not their function. If you have any subcommittees of the board that you know of.
There is subcommittees.
Yes.
In different companies, and their duty is they are managing the company's problem and try to bring different ideas from different corporate levels companies, from different companies, and they try to practice the good corporate governance ideas, and they bring levels management authorities and mediator in between the high levels of board of directors and the company's managers, and they reconcile the difficulties in between the company and other government areas also. They're working as intermediators also.
Okay. Yeah. I think Biru has tried. Biru has tried, but
Yes.
Bisho, you want to say something?
I have a question by the doctor. That
Yeah.
main subcommittee, meaning the members of DCOs,
Yeah.
those deputies to the
Yes.
CEO?
Yeah.
Yes.
That? All right.
Yeah.
Actually, in our corporation, in all departments, there are deputy CEOs. Those are under the CEO.
Not that, Bishop.
Mm.
Not that, Bishop. The board directors have got 3 or 4 committees, which includes audit
Yeah.
committee,
Usually,
budget and plan committee.
in most
Yes,
of,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doctor,
Audit
in most
committee.
of the Ethiopian companies, the
Yeah.
board is not used to have subcommittees. They have the chairman and 5 or 7 members only. This specialization is common in the Western companies, even in Kenya, but in most of the Ethiopian, except few, it is not common to have a subcommittee in the board.
But Kirubel, was it Kirubel or Bekal who was just giving me the subcommittees they have? He had started.
Yeah.
audit. Yes. That's for the bank, is it?
Yeah, it's basically in Ethiopia, banking industries and corporate good governance are commonly related and governed by National Bank of Ethiopia.
So which committees are you aware of?
therefore,
Do your board
therefore,
have a subcommittee, Bakan?
yeah,
Do
yeah,
your board
yeah,
have a
yeah,
subcommittee?
yeah.
If so,
There is,
please tell us the name.
yeah,
Tell us the detail, if so.
yeah,
The
yeah.
name
Just
of the subcommittee.
yes, the name of subcommittees. One committee, there are 12 in numbers. Board members are there are 12. They are classified in 4 groups by 3 main members, 1 leader and 1 secretary, and one member. There are 3 committees. The first is discuss. They discuss and they always worry about audits and finance issue. Some and other committee always discuss about budget. Some committees, most of the time, resource and facility issue.
What are the name of the subcommittees?
Yeah,
Doesn't they have a name?
Yeah, he has given. He has said audit and finance committee, resource,
resource
and then he
And
has said
credit.
the budget committee.
and credit appraisal.
Credit appraisal, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
Credit appraisal includes risk issue, compliance issue, legal issue, and so many things.
I
But
think there is different departments of the company, is it? It is
Yeah.
different
No,
departments of the
It
company.
means that
no, the board
No,
also
different
classified
departments of the
into
company.
4 groups. The board also classified into 4 groups.
Those are the subcommittees I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's subcommittees.
How
They-
many board
because-
members are there?
12.
How
12.
many board members are there?
He said that 12.
12.
12 people are
So
divided into
3
4
times
groups.
4.
Ah,
three.
yeah, 2 women and 10 men people.
3 times 4 is 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I get it right. Ayele says it's not in all companies, but I think we have gotten an example from the banking sector where the subcommittees exist. So yeah,
National
so
Bank
maybe you-
always control that. National Bank would like to order them to
Okay.
classify in those groups and recommend them to be within a committees and decide some critical things within a committee. That's the main thing.
yeah, I accept that. At least it has given us an example. That's a good example of what the subcommittees are and what their role is within the board, which is critical. 7, how might the independence of non-executive directors be defined? Because we said if you have non-executives, you need, how would you define the independence? Yeah, you see, they only have to be independent if
no connection.
how might the independence of the, if you have non-executive directors?
I
it a
didn't
board of-
understand.
Yeah,
Oh, my-
you see, I
I didn't understand about non-executive
said
directors.
sometimes we bring on board non-executive. Yes, or the idea of non-executive, or you didn't understand it, yeah? Yes, I think the non-executive directors, they come from outside. They are not part of the directors. You see, I said like you could incorporate individuals who have maybe with us a very high reputation or have a very high technical competence. You bring them so that the company tries to associate with them, because sometimes associating with them would then make you have business.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah,
Now I get it.
but yeah.
For example, in our bank, for example, there is a non-executive directors. They work as interest-free advisor.
Yes.
Uh,
And they are
Islamic,
interest-free
there is
or
a
advice,
interest-free
yes?
banking.
Yeah.
They are advisors. They are Muslim teachers, ustaz, and they were nationally known peoples, and
Yeah.
they salaried and they advise the bank the rules of Sharia, and maybe that's non-executive directors.
Yes, that would be non-executive. And I think for them to be very independent, then maybe, in my opinion, then they should be, they actually needs to be holders. So that it's the shareholders who can decide whether they're doing a good job or a bad job. Right? So they need some independence for them to do their job well. Critically discuss the importance of board evaluation, succession planning, and board diversity. I think these are many things in one. The board needs to be evaluated. Maybe are they doing well or they are not doing well? Do we need to renew their contract? And is there good succession planning within the organization? Maybe this is something we can discuss next class. Suppose the CEO leaves today, dies, or is sick. Is there a plan that he can easily, smoothly somebody takes over without any problem? Non-executive directors are a waste of time. They often have little involvement with a company and are not aware of what is really going on. Critically discuss this statement. So if you are, maybe Bekal would then tell us the non-executive directors they have, do they really, in your opinion, are they contributing to the company, or they're just a waste of time and the company can do away with them? That's what this question is asking. Do you think they're a waste of time? Can the company just do without them? Are they really contributing something? That's the question. So you can take any stand. You can say no and justify, or you can say yes and justify. Such questions do not have a direct answer. It's based on what you feel and strongly, then you can advise, yes. What is board diversity? What's the importance of ensuring? Yeah, I talked about the diversity in terms of gender, in terms of competence, in terms of age, in terms of qualifications, you know, ethnicity, and all those. So you really need such kind of diversity so that the board is able to have a good mix of talent and knowledge and experience. I think that's, we'll revisit these questions in the next class and then just go through them. Again, finally, if you look at my lecture notes, then you'll be able to see, now you have two case studies, case 6 and case 7. Case 7 is for a company called Suzano. So you should be able to look at these two so that together with the activities for the other lecture and this, then we can discuss them on Friday before we begin anywhere else. So I think that was what I had in mind for today. So please, you have 1 week to ensure that your term paper is ready. We have agreed that at least 1,500 words, 5 pages is okay. But it's not about the pages and the words. It's about, okay, the word is just a guide because some people can write 1 page. But the wording is, the number of pages is just a guide so that you have enough content. And I think that's important. So if we can ensure that that is done by, it's next Friday because today is 14th. So you have just 2 weeks to clean it up and send it so that I start. Of course, we had agreed that there's 10% attendance, then there is 20% term paper, then there is, is it 20% term paper?
30%.
Yeah, 30%. So 10% attendance, 30% term paper, and then 20% the assignment. So case study 8 and 9, 10, that makes 20. So that gives you your 60, and then the final exam is 40%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's okay for today. Let's meet on Friday to look at the case studies and the class activities before we can begin on anything else.
Doctor.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Still the case study is in the Latin region. in Brazil.
Yeah, I think the book I was using, it's a,
we could
can
not,
somebody look for me?
we could not see
Somebody,
the way. We
Can
could
I
not see
give
the
you- can I give the class an assignment to look for me good 2 case studies on corporate governance on Ethiopia? Can somebody try? Yeah, that's part of your research.
That is part of our research. Maybe it is
Yeah.
repetitive.
So that if
Maybe the example could be from Far East, from China, for
yes,
example, just like company Jack Ma.
yes,
Yeah.
okay. Let me see. By today is Monday. That will be so short. Let me see by Tuesday if I can get some case studies from the East. But also try to see if you can get me case studies from Ethiopia, and we just
It
share.
is good for the discussion, and that's my comment. That's my only comment.
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. So we also need to look for, but also just look for case studies as you read. If you get some from Asia or from Ethiopia, just share with me so that I can see which ones are good for discussions in class.
Okay.
All right. So I think that's enough. Thank you, guys. You can now maybe travel home or do other things. So see you on Friday.
See
Thank you.
Have a nice.
See you on Friday.